when the people have the childhood trauma, such as abuse, neglect, or household dysfunction, including divorce, and somebody is going to jail in my family, and there's some domestic violence. When they have the history of that, it affects their later life health, which means not only the mental health, but the physical health.
All right, what is up, guys? RLTKPHX podcast, Real Talk Phoenix, episode 31.
31.
Now, we're now officially older than me because I'm 30. We're not older than John yet, but
Yes.
that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? We'll get there. You know what I mean? And so, hey, super excited about today's podcast. Some of you guys may know this about me and you may not, but I really have a passion for psychology and a passion for therapy. I'm actually in school to kind of learn those things. And so I'm super excited about today's guest because he's a good friend. I've known him for a number of years now since we actually moved to Arizona, and he's heavily involved in the trauma-informed care movement. And so I want to introduce today's guest, Mr. Sanghoon. Did I say it right? I said it right, didn't I?
Yes, you're perfectly right.
Excellent.
That's what I'm talking about. And so, Sanghoon, so grateful to have you on the show, have you on the podcast. Grateful that you would take the time out to spend with us because we know you're a busy guy and we know you're doing amazing work all over the
valley. Yeah.
All over the state.
He's been loving college kids for a long time too, man. Like when I first came here to Arizona, he was at ASU West.
Doing cool
and
work,
he
man.
I met him and instantly he just put me in touch. And so Sanghoon's one of those guys that if you don't know him, he knows you. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Yeah, he probably got your number in his phone.
It's an honor to have you with us today,
Thank
Sanghoon.
you.
Likewise, man. Thank you so
Sanghoon,
much.
do us a favor. Tell us your story. Tell us who you are, where you're from, like how you grew up and stuff, where you got to where you are now. Please.
Okay. Jordan and John, you guys started talking about the age, so I feel a little bit offended because, man, I'm way older than you guys, so I don't know. My story.
Well, you don't look like it. You look younger than Jordan.
You're a hater, bro.
It's that pearl cream. Don't lie.
Yeah, you're funny. But so I have a long story with my life. I can say that I was born in South Korea, and I came to the States more than 30 years ago to continue my study on master's of social work. And then I was in Michigan for that, and Michigan State, and then I came to Arizona State for my PhD program. And meanwhile, I knew from the beginning my call is not just being a certain social worker or a social work professional or professor. My heart was for being a minister or a pastor. And what ended up is that anyway, to make a long story short, that I quit my PhD and I became a campus pastor. So I founded the Faithful City Ministry at Arizona State University. And at the same time that I was a associate pastor of a local church next to ASU. And then, so I was kind of, happy with that because, social work, my area was trauma and crisis. It was so heavy. And now I'm with the young people and brighter people and from all nations and leadership, So, so to move on. So I was kind of happy with it. Doing great. And, but however, when the city of Tempe mayor, Hugh Holman, previous mayor, just called faith leaders to work together with the community. So I got involved and I became a director of that because he wanted to do the emergency preparedness initiative. So actually I came back to the old crew I used to work together, and fire, police, social workers, and community workers, and which I said goodbye. I moved on, and so it's kind of mixed feeling, but it went well. And meanwhile, I got involved with more people, inner city, in the city of Phoenix, in Magellan, and then youth with homelessness and aging out foster care kids, and a lot of the young people with the trauma. So I work with our ASU students to help them out, to mentor them, to raise the leadership with them. And also I found there are so many broken young people inside the
Mm.
campus. So
Yeah.
I was surrounded, people with a trauma, and the
What were the
disciple.
kinds of trauma that you were seeing?
Well, okay. So people, first of all, people don't like the word trauma, but at the same time, it's very popular right now.
It's
And then
true.
actually, trauma is different from trauma and from the care. I'm gonna talk about it more later. But the trauma wise, that anyway, if you have an excessive toxic stress that could really make you being collapsed, or kind of you cannot function anymore. That's
Mm.
really kind of bring us trauma. So before this show started, we talked a little bit with Jordan and John, you guys, that the trauma is not just like a horrible thing that people don't want to talk about it. You can
That's
just
good.
start with the small dialogue, right? Like I say, whenever you don't feel like you are loved or you are accepted, it's the
Mm.
beginning of a trauma. Okay, so
Wow.
when I work with the college students, I just called a young boy that that's, oh yeah, you're so handsome. He was from actually other country. You know what I heard from him? He never heard that word in his whole life.
Wow.
So
Wow.
he never thought he is handsome, he is capable. Think about how much that kind of limited him. And
Mm.
so there are a lot of brokenness in the heart. So people think,
Mm.
oh, college kids or high school kids, they're good, they're young, happy. No, actually, there are trauma because of a war, because of torture, of course. But anything can makes you not function at all, and then you have a deep wound in your heart that really, frustrate you and make you down for the life, and then it's gonna be hindrance against your success for your future.
Mm.
That's all trauma. and
Man.
and so it's not just about and then a lot of times it happens because of relationship. It's not because of the certain physical financial damage. We are in the pandemic right now. We are in the medical emergency and economic emergency, but also we are in a humongous mental health emergency, right?
Mm.
But that it comes down in the relationship. I hear some families kind of have a good time with the other family members because they're all together. But also, I hear there are a lot of a fight going on in the family.
Yes.
In some other countries, the divorce rate is kind of picked up, raised. So that relationship begins that kind of, oh, I'm not worth it, or oh, it's all happening because of me, my responsibility. All
Mm.
these things are kind of the seed of a bitterness about me, about people around me, and it really kind of makes me not to be functional in my study, in my activity and sports, because I always compare myself with the people and always
Wow.
blame myself, and it become a real kind of the seed of the old traumatic result later on. It can be a health problem, it can be mental health problem, or a social functional problem. So it ended up with a lot of poverty or losing job and a continuous vicious cycle of a
Yeah.
brokenness and then poverty. So actually the trauma is not what we think of a trauma. Some many times is a result of the real small trauma
Wow.
happened in our childhood or some in the past in a
Mm.
relationship. So that's what we can say trauma in that sense. We see so many broken and people in the college, like in the
Yeah.
COVID, right. Some students want to go to the home, but some students don't want to go home
Yeah.
because like high school and K-12 K is same thing. For certain students, school is a more better environment for them
Yeah.
than the family. And so we are re-traumatizing people when we just try to send them, back home with this
Mm.
COVID kind of 19, crisis. And so we see a lot of people. They don't talk about it. They look great, but inside they are so deeply wounded and bring the brokenness and darkness all the time. That's a trauma.
Man, that is so helpful, man, for you to delineate that for us.
Yeah. It's good. Thank you so much.
So coming back to my story, and then um, 5 6 years ago, actually more than that, um, I was dealing with a lot of trauma, as I said, with the people around. But actually, I got hit my own traumatic season. there are many things happen. And so I don't want, I don't have time to talk about it. But the problem is that as
You
a
can share
result,
whatever you want, man.
yeah. But a result of that traumatic seasons, a lot of things happen, and especially other relationship problems. But
Hmm.
and it caused my financial problems. Anyway, I lost everything, and I felt
Wow.
like I my life is totally waste. The whole life, 20 years of social work and 25 years of my ministry. It looks like there's no fruit, there's the good product out of this at all. So I felt like I'm useless, you know what I mean? And so I lost all my work and relationships. I was came down to the point that I wanna end my life. So
Man.
I was in the point that I
Man,
really
thank you for sharing that with us. I know, just I hate to interrupt you, but knowing you for the brief time that I've known you, I would
uh,
never have guessed that. You have
right.
Yeah.
always been like the
Happy.
sweetest guy, most helpful guy. And as far as fruit, man, I will tell you, like, just to combat that, and I know you've probably gone through some things, but a lot of the reason Real Talk is bearing fruit in the valley here now, I'll never forget, we were doing this thing at ASU West when you were coming over there. Me and Sean Wiseman were there, and you were there,
Right.
and there was another lady, I can't remember her name, but we were trying to do a thing for like all the different faith expressions on campus, and we were trying to bring people together just to be able to like celebrate their faith, whatever that faith may be. And I
Mm.
remembered at first thinking, because I know that you're a Christian, but I was like, wow, this is really cool that this guy's a Christian, but he's making space for people who aren't Christians to come and have fellowship, conversation, dialogue. So, man, in terms of fruitfulness, that's a complete lie. Your life has had purpose and lots of fruit, and you've been big. I've never told you this, but I just want to tell you, man, I think you're a great dude and very inspirational.
Oh, thank you so much, John. Because because of you said you were a part of our ASU Cora, but you didn't show up,
Yeah.
and you said that there's some kind of change, and things. But I thought,
A similar story with us. What happened with us at Cora, everything that we were trying to do at ASU, the organization that I worked for at the time pulled all the finances and all the money and basically threw me out in the street. So my
mm,
family, because they didn't like what we were doing, they basically, did some stuff. You know what I mean? So I can relate to a lot of that, but that had nothing to do with you personally, man.
yeah, thank you for saying that. But hey, John, you just disappeared, man. So I thought that you were mad at me,
Hey,
or
no, not at
you're
all.
not satisfied. So
Not
thank
at
you for
all.
saying that. After years, finally, I got
Hey,
some comfort, resolution, huh?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you know
That's
what? To
good.
be honest, I had no idea any of that stuff. My view of you at that time was that Sanghoon is like the dude. Like
Hmm.
he is the boss, like the gatekeeper of everything. So I felt like, man, I don't know that we're a really small thing. We don't, he's doing it.
He
We
probably
need,
forgot about us already.
he doesn't even remember us. He's killing it without us, like, why does he need us? And so that was
uh,
totally my
uh,
view on it, man.
Look at
And
that. Trauma resolution, not a podcast.
yeah, I
yeah,
had no
yeah,
idea.
right. Right. So that's what I'm talking about. Like when people
Wow.
look at others, we always think others are better than where I am, but actually that's
Wow.
not true. And so that's the very very important that I want to kind of sidetrack, but you need to know that whoever listens to this our podcast, if you think that oh my John, and Jordan and Sanghoon, they look so cool, they sound so cool. Look at me, don't go there please then, because
Wow.
the real kind of the bad result of the trauma is end up always with a self-blame. That's the
Mm.
thing. It's not about really what kind of a magnitude of the accident or incident or damage happened. Actually, it ended up to my internal, my inner being, in my heart, right? Out of all this, ultimately, if I feel I'm worthless, I'm not worthy.
Wow.
I'm rejected, or I blame myself, right? And then usually I can be very depressed out of this, and then look at everybody else. They are so happy. I'm not. It's
Wow.
like a kind of a really deception, right? Because
Yep.
wow, John is thinking me as he's a dude, but I don't feel that way,
Wow.
internally, and that really kills me, right? So that's the thing that piled up with so many incidents, and then it makes me feel like I'm just I wasted everything in my life, and then
Wow.
all the relationship just kind of I lost most of my relationships, and so I was almost at the point that I cannot live anymore in this world. And
Man.
at that time, what happened is that I went to the DC because of certain conference for the college campus ministers. But there I met, by some weird connection, I met somebody who was doing the trauma-informed congregation conference in national level. And I got shocked because, first of all, trauma-informed congregation. Oh, it sounds like a faith community conference. I never thought mental health and faith can work together. I never thought pastors can deal with the trauma. I mean,
Mm.
that phrase makes me kind of confused, because no, they are not get along. Why they are together, And
Right.
that's why I was in social work, but now I became a pastor because it was so hard to really merge both sides together, and ideologically, profession-wise, and my theology, my social philosophy, and didn't match, all kind of things.
Mm.
So I was curious, so I went there, and I learned about ACEs. Stands for a diverse childhood experiences, and
Mm.
and I got to know about trauma-informed care movement based on the ACEs study, and I was kind of blown out, because when I learned that from the movement that one of the important the factors of trauma recovery is unconditional love and compassion and constant
Wow.
care. So I thought, oh boy, that's not medical term. That's not mental health kind of professional word, right? It's like a schizophrenia, or that's not medical term at all. That's
Yeah.
actually what I'm doing as a pastor. That's what we are doing in our faith community, right?
Hmm.
Compassion and unconditional love, and then
It's
one
good.
person the constant care. So
That's
come
what
on,
Christians should be doing.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Well,
So come on, man, what is this, right? So I just uh, if there's some portion, the current science and the trauma informed care movement can use what faith community for the faith community should do, then I have a spot there. I can contribute there, and maybe I can be
Mm.
useful to the movement. So that made me kind of a momentum that, okay, before I give up my life, let's check about it. So I came back to the Phoenix, and then I found already there is a huge coalition called Arizona ACEs Consortium,
Mm.
and that
And what's
was
her name?
no, that's a Arizona ACEs
Oh, got
Consortium.
you. I
That's
thought
a
you said you found a person.
no. Sorry, it's a coalition. So it was
Gotcha.
a coalition founded 13 years ago, and it was kind of people working on that ACEs and the trauma informed care movement in Arizona from all other sectors, government and mental health and medical, business, education, of course. But they didn't have the faith leader. So I just jumped on it, and I founded Arizona Trauma Informed Faith community as a part of the ACE consortium. And I started this movement almost 4 years ago, that with a small number of people, about 5 people, um, uh, in a refugee cafe, just hey, I'm excited. What are you gonna do though? And it's like so started a kind of an email, 5 people, right? But since we started, it just it grew exponentially every day. It advanced every day. It's totally just out of my control. So it grew tremendously. Like five email address, and I time to time I send my community email. So right now I'm sending email about 2,500 people and organizations in the state of Arizona and nationwide with this
Wow.
movement. We had a one monthly meeting in the Valley for our trauma informed faith community. But now we have 7 regions. So 7 monthly meeting going on in 5 regions in Phoenix and Casa
Nice.
Grande. Yeah, Casa Grande and Tucson. And I'm working closely with the governor's office of youth, faith, and family. So they are doing a great partnership to advance our movement here together. And so you name it. My life has been totally changed. I've been training on trauma from the care and ACEs, more than 200 presentations and the workshop the last 3 years, at not only at the churches, but the schools and everywhere. So this is amazing because every day I'm amazed, 5 years ago, I could end my life.
Hmm.
And now I go everywhere, and it's like my life is totally changed 108 degrees. And then at least I thought I wasted first half of my life with the social work, but now I'm using all the both sides together. So suddenly I'm alive, and suddenly I'm using everything what I've been learning and kind of a working. And so it's I just stand in awe, and wow, how can this happen? However, to me, there's a more important thing. The more important thing is the movement can anybody can do it because the trauma informed care is a buzzword everywhere. So whoever starts, it's gonna be great. But for me, that um, out of all this, I really kind of experienced that what the science, the faith, and tells me. Um, as I said, um, I could really encounter God again, His unconditional love. And in John, you said that that's what we're supposed to do. Yes, it's the irony that I've been doing the Christian, faith leadership 30 years, right? I was born in Buddhist family, so I don't have many background in my family. So I worked so hard for this, and I just try
Hmm.
to do all the right things. The main thing is that whether you guys saw me and oh he's doing great or not, you know, um, I just try to do the right thing. But when I feel like whatever I try to do the right thing, it doesn't work. It doesn't matter, you know, the outward, the product and fruition. It doesn't matter. Internally, I have to justify what I'm doing. What I'm doing is all right. But when I don't have that kind of feedback from myself, right? So whatever I try to do right, it doesn't work anyway. Then then come to the conclusion. Why do I have to live more? And
Hmm.
so I really wanted to. I can write a book like the title. I already
You
have a
should.
title. Yeah, I have one title that like you know when doing right is right anymore.
Hmm.
Wow.
That's the thing, that whatever I tried to write, it didn't work it out. And so that's what kind of makes me really down, even in becoming a suicidal. But with this movement, that unconditional, I found the secret. The secret is we are not here to do unconditional love to others. Before that, that's true. But before that, we need to receive unconditional love first.
Hmm.
That's good.
Explain that a little more. That's such a profound point. I really want you to elaborate on that for our audience.
Right. So, that we learn from the Bible, God is love, and we all talk about the love of Jesus and everything. So, yeah, you guys and I know that when we do sinners prayer, yeah, we are sinners. We receive the love of God and through Jesus, and so Now I'm saved, right? But a lot of times it comes to my head, right? And then it takes a long time that head knowledge to come down to my heart knowledge, which means my experience. And with all the busy things, what we need to do at church as a workers, right? That we don't have enough time to really have a time with God to personally deep down that unconditional love to myself. So interestingly, we are saved by unconditional love, but when we start to work as a Christian and when we follow Jesus, suddenly we became very conditional to myself because I have to do this, I have to do that, I should do this, I should do that. I always have to do the right things, right? But that's not the way how we follow Jesus. The really the our God, I always say when God said God is unconditional love, which means God is unconditional love. So any condition must go away because like I read the Bible every day, but what if I just woke up late? So if I feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have time to do that, right? Then what happened? I carry the guilt whole day. Oh, I didn't read it. I didn't read it. I need to catch up. I need to catch up, right? Is that will of God? Is that how I receive the unconditional love, right? That guilt, that kind of shame inside I carry, that's a trauma. That's the beginning of trauma. Because trauma is really, the core of trauma is the guilt and shame. They break down the trust. Trauma is not, again, it's not about the war, torture, all kind of things. Those are trauma. But what we are talking about trauma in the trauma-informed care is a deep down my heart, my trust, and my feeling and being loved, my self-acceptance is destroyed. Instead, all the
good,
guilt
man.
and shame is just kind of consume me, right?
That's a
That's
profound point,
the
man.
trauma, and we on that's the root cause. Even I go back to the Genesis, right? When Adam and Eve did the original sin, what happened? They just fled from God, right? All guilt and shame come upon them. When God said that you're gonna die if you eat the fruit of knowledge, but actually it's not about physical death, the death of the relationship, because the trust was destroyed. Instead, guilt and shame is always a stand between God and us. That's the trauma. And that's we if we cannot resolve that guilt and shame in Jesus by unconditional love of God, I'm still having a long way to go. So theologically, we say, oh, salvation happened instantly. But at the same time, Apostle Paul also told us, work out at your salvation. What does it mean? I need to go more deeper, deeper, deeper. How much
That's good,
I'm
man.
loved by God.
That's good. I think about it's such a profound point to make because there's this reality that if we don't have a sense of uh trust and faith about who we are as people, you know what I'm saying, and who we've been made to be,
Mm-hmm.
then how do you have that with anybody else? You know what I'm saying? And then everything in your life just becomes compounding guilt and shame, right?
Mm-hmm.
As you're in relationships and you fail people, or as
Mm-hmm.
you're, doing your job and you make a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
right? All those fears and think, oh, I'm gonna get fired. Oh, this person's gonna leave me. This person doesn't really love me. My kids don't really love me. So like you have all these compounding thoughts and the feelings, and the reality is, as human beings, how do we resolve that thing on the inside of us that keeps constantly telling us there's something wrong with us, right? Because we all have that
Exactly.
inner voice, right? And that inner voice brings guilt, that inner voice brings shame. And then, some of us have done a really good job silencing it and medicating it with certain things, right? And then others not so much.
Right.
But I agree with you, man. I think ultimately, in order to silence that voice, you have to have somebody give you a new identity, and you have to have somebody give you a new identity that you can trust, right? And like who has proven their trustworthiness more than God? The reality is, I know that every human being that I love is gonna fail me. They're gonna betray me. They're gonna do something I don't like, and probably not even know it. Do you know what I'm saying?
Mm.
And so it's like, man, it's such a profound point, that inner guilt and that inner shame on the inside of us. We have to figure out how to deal with it.
That's the trauma, though.
Yeah.
That's the point
Yeah.
he's making that's profound.
Exactly. So because when I feel like I failed, you know, instead of receiving the unconditional love of God or forgiveness, actually, I feel like I'm away from God. I'm distanced from God. I'm cursed by God. And oh, John left because I did something wrong, right? That kind of a guilt, you know, and the blame. And that makes us really far away from God. As Jordan said, that makes us kind of a distanced, dissociated from who I am. I am beloved child of God, and that's why God sent His Son to die for me. But the problem is, when you receive, that's why Jesus told us to go to first love. You know, to first love, we just forget about it, and then we come back to all the work mode, right? I have to prove myself. And then when I do well, I feel like God is more close to me, right? And
right.
Then, and if I don't do well, people are going away and God is going away. But actually, this is the opposite, actually, because when I'm broken down, right, God is more near to me. That's what Scripture tells us, right? So it's very interesting because a lot of times we are kind of deceived by certain kind of our own thought or theology.
Man.
Something wrong happened to you, then because you did something wrong to God, right? Okay, let me tell you, I'm not talking about my theology. Look at the book of Job. Job had a trouble without, not because he did something wrong, but we know that why, because of the enemy attacked him. But his friends constantly told him, hey, you're in serious trouble. You know why? Because you did something wrong against God. So figure that out. It sounds right, right?
Right,
However,
it does.
In the end of the Job, what happened? In the end of the book, God showed up and He said what to those three friends. They said, God said, hey, you guys are wrong actually, right? That's what I'm talking about. You know, it's interesting because we always talk about John 3:16. Jesus came not to for us not to perish because we believe in Jesus with eternal life. I always say the trauma-informed care gospel is not only John 3:16, but also 16 and 17. When Jesus said, He came here into this world to save us, not to condemn us. So as long as I carry the condemnation, whether I did a sinner's prayer or not, I'm not in the full degree of the salvation. Whether the condemnation from somebody else or from myself, my own thought. Because Jesus came to set me free from all the condemnation, unconditionally. No excuse on that, you know? And then I really encountered that with God in the moment of my own giving of my life, right? With this trauma from the care knowledge, I was found by God again because who is the best source of unconditional love? As Jordan said, it should be God. So I struggled with God. 2 hours, 3 hours, you know, I could not sleep because of my trauma. So I wake up 2 o'clock in the morning. Well, one good thing I can suggest is to pray instead of drinking or just going something else. But
right.
my prayer was not easy though. It's like it's like Jacob's prayer. So wrestling. Why I'm here? Who are you? God, you are still there. You are real. I cannot feel it, but I cannot give you up either. And I don't know where to go. And I'm struggling all the time. I mean, 2 hours every 2 o'clock in the a.m. I just I wake up and then I struggle with God. That's me. To me, that's my honest prayer. That I'm struggling with Him. And out of all this, after for a while, God really made me really be touched by His unconditional love. And as He showed Job, His magnitude, right? How much He big is. And so that was one thing. And then there are a couple of people who constantly helped me, cared me, right? So unconditional love and for the constant care. It happened to me. And then the trauma from the care knowledge and skills with the mindfulness and all kind of exercise and the
Yeah.
science. Out of this, my life is totally changed. So what I want to say
Mm.
is that you can still be very impressed that with the movement, what's going on. But the most important thing is what happened in my life, inside of me, because what God showed me with the refreshing revelation of His unconditional love, and a
Mm.
couple of people around me never betrayed me, and then and also all this trauma informed care science, everything really kind of makes me more strengthened to overcome my own self-blame, but instead try to be more resilient, believing God and believing myself actually. So that really helped me and to be saved again in a sense, and to really continue to be resilient every day, to follow Jesus every day.
That's good, man. So I think something you said earlier, moving us back to trauma informed care, that was really important, is you started talking about ACEs a little bit and what you
Mm-hmm.
learned. And so can you just unpack for us,
Mm-hmm.
for our audience, what ACEs are and
Mm-hmm.
why they're important and what they need to know about them?
Okay, so ACEs is Adverse Childhood Experiences. It's a study by Dr. Felody and Anda in about 20 years ago in San Diego. The thing what happened is they are medical doctors, they are not psychologists, but they found that some patients got treated with their medical condition, but after for a while they come back to doctors again. They come back doctors again. So what's going on? You guys got healed and you come back again, right? So he surveyed the patient. He found those patients who come back is really had a very toxic stress or trauma or very troubled childhood
Hmm.
in their child.
So that was affecting their physical health?
Yes. So
Wow.
they surveyed about 20,000 people that pretty kind of normal, good people, right? College graduates. And they surveyed them. And then they found such a correlation when the people have the childhood trauma, such as abuse, neglect, or household dysfunction, including divorce, and somebody is going to jail in my family, and there's some domestic violence. When they have the history of that, it affects their later life health, which means not only the mental health, but the physical health. So heart disease, liver disease, cancer, as well as substance abuse. Dr. Felody and on that, they've been doing this research for 20 years, finding the huge correlation that between the childhood and early age kind of a trauma and very toxic experience, how it affects later life health issues. Humongous consistency, a science perspective, which means this is very truthful, although we cannot connect that what happened to you gonna impact what's going on right now.
Mm.
It's like a kind of iceberg, right? So if you see the iceberg at the surface, you don't see much, right? But there's
Right.
a humongous portion, under the sea, right? Under the surface. So in other words, the root cause of a human relationship, root cause of a human conflict, right? That really affects our later life. That's what science tells us. So the national phrase of this movement is really, instead of asking, hey Jordan, what's wrong with you? Instead of that, we ask, what happened to you?
That's good.
Because if
Mm.
we don't touch the root cause, right? If we don't touch the root cause, then the surface problem can come back and come back and come back. It's like this, okay? So John, you have the bronchitis, right? So you need to go doctor and you have antibiotics and all kind of medication, right? But what if just the doctor just give you cough drops? It's not gonna, it's just relieve your symptom, but you're gonna suffer a lot, right? Like it's the same thing. The thing is that whenever we go to doctors, and a lot of times we just focus on what's going on right now, what's wrong with you right now, right? So if you have depression or if you have a stomach problem, anyway, I'm gonna get help to get rid of that. but the whole society is built just focus on presenting problems rather than root cause.
Mm.
So this is a very revolutionary paradigm of
Mm-hmm.
science that,
It's good.
hey, we need to look at people's life more deeper
Mm-hmm.
to do the complete, profound healing. So they
Yep.
can really come back and fully, holistically recovered for their life and achieving the full potential. And this is very, very important because I don't know who is listening to this, right? But it applies to everybody because when we talk about other childhood experiences, people think, oh, it's about children. I'm not children, you know. No. Anyway, whether you are 50-year-old or 20-year-old or 2-year-old, you have a history. So what happened in your life gonna affect you. So if you are a young teenager right now, there are more hope actually for you because with this knowledge, right, you need
Mm.
to think about yourself and your relationship, your family very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So what most important thing is that you need to have a very safe and secure relationship. And if you don't have that, you need to work on it, right? It's not just like a study hard and then I'm gonna do certain things and career development. Yeah, those are
Yeah.
important. But if you if you don't prevent or if you don't work on all this early age of a trauma or a difficult conflicted relationship, then it's gonna affect you later.
Mm.
There's a huge implication of how we're gonna do our self-development, our self-actualization. Because we wanna be successful, right? So it's really really talking about what is the most important thing in our success. It's not just about doing work hard right now. It's really about touching the deep wound in my life comes
Hmm.
with guilt and shame and destroy the trust on me, trust on God, trust on society, trust on neighbor, trust on family. If we don't focus on that, it gonna come back sometime.
That's good, man. It makes me, and I think why this is so important, because on our last podcast too, Carl Morris, who's in the behavioral health field, he was talking about how doctors are starting to ask more mental health questions and family history questions and different things of that nature. Because one of the things that we're seeing, and you're confirming it, is this reality that you can have mental health things happen that show up physically, right? And create
Right.
physical illness. And so if those things aren't being resolved, the illness isn't going away. It's going to
Right.
come back because the issue isn't that you just have stomach problems. The issue is you have a profound sense of anxiety about something that happened in your childhood. And so that needs to be processed. And then those stomach aches can go away, all those migraines or whatever else, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so people need to understand that, like, there sometimes there are like mental and historical and different
Mm-hmm.
things that have happened in your life that have caused that trauma, that disturbance that we're talking about, that then shows itself later on in some sort of physical ailment. And then until that can be dealt with, that root, like you said, that thing that even caused the problem in the first place, is not going anywhere. And so the illness isn't going anywhere, is it? Or it
Mm-hmm.
might change location. Who knows? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't mind, I really want to talk about this to you
Please.
guys. So
Yes.
with that atheist, what we to understand is about brain. Our brain. Well, I I don't know whether you are evolutionist, you believe in the evolution, or you believe the God's creation. Anyway, either ways works for me because anyway, brain, we have a brain and everybody's saying brain, and then I'm talking about the biology and physiology. It's not kind of bound to the, oh, you are African American, or you're Asian, you're Caucasian, it's different. It's not about culture. Yeah, we all have the brain.
Mhm.
Then, and the way how brain designed, the way is that the brain has a kind of three parts. It's a brainstem, limbic system, and prefrontal cortex. If we are in a normal functioning, then the front cortex is a major function. So you and I talking right now, and then we can create it, we can teach, learn, even the being compassionate, all coming out. The major function is here, our forehead area. Well, the way how our brain structured is that if we feel like some threat or danger, right? Then what happens is that our brain stem says, "Hey, there's a danger," and then the limbic
Your
system.
reptile brain.
Yes, and then it hits a limbic brain, and then limbic
Mm.
system. There's a portion called amygdala, and then amygdala, the hijack happened, and then
Mhm.
what happened is that then amygdala hijack dominate whole brain and my body and everything. So my cortex gonna shut down, and then I'm gonna just to do the uh, trauma survival response, which is what? Fight, flight, or freeze. I mean, we also talk about flock too. So, so what I'm
Mm.
saying is that when my brain recognizes danger, it's not safe, and I cannot function, and
Yep.
I can just to be a person with a behavior of a fight, flight, or freeze, right?
Hey, can
But
you unpack those for us really quick? Because I know
right,
most people have heard of fight and flight, but they may not have heard of freeze and flock. So
okay,
just explain those four to us really quickly so
yes,
everybody can understand.
This is the
right,
way people respond when
When basically when like when some they're in danger and then the prefrontal cortex shuts down and they go into reptile brain mode and they're just like
so these four
protect at all
things.
costs. Yeah,
yeah.
this is what happens.
So think about it like, yeah, you just touched it, right? You just touched a very burning pot, right? I know, John, you are a very intelligent guy, you're a very thoughtful guy, but you must do what? Oh my gosh, what is this? You just immediately gonna react, when you feel, instead of, okay, let me think about it. If you use only your cortex, oh, it feels so hot. Why? Is there any heat going on? You don't have a time, and then you're gonna burn your finger. That's the thing. Or you guys, and I'm talking right now. What if the somebody with a gun show up? What are you gonna do? You gotta do that. Oh, hello, how are you? It's a good day, right? You don't do that,
Right.
man. You gotta just fight, or you gotta just run away, or you're gonna just fight. There's nowhere to go. So the most important thing is what we are talking about is very correct behavior. When brain recognize danger, we cannot function normally. We have to function abnormally, because we need to get rid of the danger, or we're gonna get out of danger. To do that, the cortex is kind of a shutdown. So we're gonna do the behavior pattern of what? Fight, flight, freeze, or flock, which means either the shooter show up in our classroom right now, then there's no way to go, and then ultimately I'm gonna fight anyway. I die, you die, I don't care. I'm gonna fight. Or flight is very basic things. I'm running away, right? I don't want to be here. I just running away, right? Freeze means when my brain recognize you cannot fight, you cannot flight, no choice, then boom, you drop everything, just freeze. Okay.
Play dead.
No, yeah. And then flocking means, actually flock means that um, either freeze or just whatever I'm asked, I say yes. It's like a pushover. Yes, man. Yes, yes. But
Mm.
actually, I'm saying yes, but I don't feel that and I don't want that. It's just kind of automatic response. I just say yes, right? But that's not real yes. So, so these behaviors, I'm doing it instinctively, right? But actually, it's nothing to do with my will. So let
Mm.
me tell you one kind of example. All right. Let's say I grown up with a very bad relationship with my dad. Okay. So I don't hope that this is gonna be anybody's case, but anyway, um, child abuse is the real out there too. So I grown up kind of physically abused my dad, and whenever dad said, um, um, "You're you're a bad boy," and then just he hit me, right? I grew up like this, right? And then I went to the school, right? And then school, um, you know, Mr. Jordan show up. I'm sorry, I'm just making fun of you. I'm picking up. Mr. Jordan show up, and yeah, he's my teacher. Cool. I'm here and try to study, and he's teacher, right? Oh man, suddenly I forgot my homework. So I just didn't bring my homework. And then Mr. Jordan, I don't know why, he suddenly got so angry at me, and he just said, "Hey, Sanghoon, you're a bad boy." you know. And when Jordan said that you're a bad boy, I don't know, he was teasing or he just saying that. It suddenly hit me, my brain, my memory, right? And then my brain just resumed that, recovered my traumatic memory when I was hit by that, right? So if I suddenly I see the Mr. Jordan not as my math teacher, but as my dad.
Wow.
Whenever suddenly I recognize my teacher as my dad who abused me, what happened? My brain kicking, hey, you're in danger. Well, the reality is I'm in a classroom, everybody's studying, you know, it's a nice place. But the brain tells me I'm in danger. So once it happens, what happened? My cortex is shut down, then I'm going to behavior, you know, what I'm not willing to, which might be fight or flight, right? Or freeze. So whenever my dad abused me, I just kind of frozen. I don't do anything. I cannot do anything. Then what happened? Mr. Jordan asked me another question. Yeah, why you didn't bring your homework? We didn't do your homework. But I'm frozen. I don't do anything. I just gotta watch him, you know? And then Mr. Jordan gonna say, oh, Sanghoon, what's wrong with you? Huh? This is a classroom. You should respect your teacher. The more Mr. Jordan does, I get more freaked out. So I'm more in danger. I'm just more frozen, right? So interestingly, I'm doing the correct behavior based on my physiology, but the situation happening not in the when somebody show with a gun, situation happening in the just a peaceful classroom.
Right.
Because of that, I'm gonna be recognized by people. What? Oh, he's a bad boy or bad student.
Yeah.
And then I'm gonna blame myself. There's nobody blame anybody. I'm gonna blame myself there. So what happened? We call this re-traumatized.
Right.
So when what happened in my life gonna be alive again in a certain place, not supposed to be happening, but it happens, it affects me, and I'm gonna do some behavior which gonna be annoying somebody or illegal, immoral, and then I'm gonna have that kind of fight, flight, freeze, and flocking in behavior, but which is actually physiologically correct, and I'm coping with my trauma, with my toxic stress from the past, but people don't recognize it. So I'm gonna be very easily judged
Yeah.
as a bad social member.
That's good.
So that's why it's very important. Instead of judging people based on what they do, we need to hear their story, right? Hey, that's why we say, instead of what's wrong with you, we say what happened to you.
That's so great.
So they can feel like, oh, I have somebody gonna listen to my story. Well, I'm more relieved. I'm more kind of feel safe, because in order to make this traumatized survivor mode brain gonna come back to the normal brain, what should happen? We call this regulate, relate, and release. It's like a brain structure, okay? So brainstem, limbic system, and then our cortex. So regulate, relate, release, reason, I'm sorry. So regulate means I need to feel safe. The safety must be guaranteed, so I can calm down. So when this brainstem says, oh, it was danger, but it was not danger anymore, you are safe. And the next step is what? Next step is I need to feel loved, accepted. That's a relate. Okay. So my brain stem says there's no danger. My limbic stem says, oh, you are not rejected. You are not attacked. You are safe and you are loved here, accepted here. Then I can talk, reason. This is very, very important, that because a lot of times the way how our society goes is that the other way around, right? Cortex, there's a rule, you memorize the rule and you keep the rule. And then you're gonna be loved, and then you're gonna be safe in our community.
Because you kept the rule, you're loved.
If you don't do it, you're gonna kicked out. But what if somebody was traumatized, not by their own will, but somebody else gonna do something wrong to them, right? And then that traumatized memory kicked in, his fight, flight, freeze, and flock behavior. And then you cannot just simply judge them. Oh, you don't do behavior well, so you cannot get out. Actually, they are victimized. They are re-traumatized. We need to recover them, right? So in order to do that, instead of saying, what's wrong with you? This is a classroom. You should behave yourself. Look at the book. Instead of that, you should say, hey, are you okay? What happened to you? We are fine here. Well, let's just have some kind of relax. Let's have some deep breathe together. Let's calm down. Let's take a time. Let's have your
That's good, man.
space. And then, you know what? Maybe you feel like, oh, I did it wrong. I'm such a bad guy, bad girl. No, you are not. We love you. We love you, and we still accept you. And then that helps that person come back to the normal brain and normal posture of a mind and body and soul, so they can really talk and they can really talk together, right? So we need to have that room and space. That's what we're talking about, trauma-informed care.
That's good, man.
John, do you love Jesus?
Absolutely.
Okay. I just make sure. But anyway,
Yeah.
John loves Jesus. Let me tell you, I always say, I'm not bragging about my religion. I don't want to make somebody converted, because of my talk. But just plainly, let me tell you that I always say, Jesus is the perfect trauma-informed care guy. Because a lot of times people think a church is a very judgmental institution, right? But let's go back to Jesus, because it's all about Jesus, isn't it? So what happened when the woman at the adultery got caught, right? And then the religious leaders brought her to Jesus, because according to law, she is supposed to be stoned, right? And so they asked Jesus, hey, Jesus, what are you going to do with this lady, right? And actually, Jesus should say, oh, she violated, she caught in adultery, so she should be stoned, right? That's how it goes. But what Jesus did was, he was so wise and so peaceful, so powerful, and so lovable. And what he did is that, well, he actually said, whoever, didn't commit any sin, just stone her first. Suddenly, the atmosphere totally changed. They're all gone. What? And so Jesus asked, hello, lady. Where are they? Who wanted to kill you? And she said, oh, they're gone. All the accusers are gone. So what Jesus is what? He made safety first. Right?
Wow.
So he made a safety first, and then they wanted to kill. They wanted to killing you. They want to condemn you. Where are they? The woman said, I don't know. They're gone. And Jesus said, I don't condemn you either, which means I accept you. I love you. Right? And then later on, Jesus said, sin no more. Think about it. That's a perfect example of regulate, relate, and reason. For the broken woman, whatever she did, right? She came here and Jesus accepted her and defeated all the accusation and then made her safe ground, safe place. And so she can feel like a safe. And in addition to that, Jesus said, I love you. I don't condemn you. So she got related by love rather than condemnation. Mm-hmm. And then Jesus said, woman, are you okay with me? And go, but sin no more. Yes, that's the reason. So Jesus doesn't agree what she did. But that's not the point. To really help and redeem and heal and restore this lady. What Jesus did was exact the form of a trauma-informed care, what we're talking about.
Man, that's good.
Think about it. Aren't you gonna crazy for this, man? You follow yes. Jesus, man, and then he was not just a teacher or critically judging everybody. No, maybe pastors do like me, but he didn't.
Good.
And now science totally support this.
That's good. I think something important, because you've kind of answered the next question that we had, which was, what do people walking with Gen Z need to understand about these issues, right? Like what do people need to understand?
Teachers,
coaches, parents, teachers. social workers who probably have already learned some of this stuff. But the reality is, if you unconditionally love students first, right? You show them that you care, that you love them, that they're accepted, that you're glad that they're present. It gives you this opportunity to really begin to relate, like you said, and then really reason with them, find out what's going on in their lives. And I think it gives us a moment to pause too, because there's this reality, like you said, that can be, I think it's really easy for us, right? Especially in a society where, you know, if you're a teacher, you get a classroom of 30 or 40 kids. There can be a lot of frustration there trying to get all those kids to do the right things. You know, being a coach and having, you know, 20 kids that you're trying to put through a training session and all these different types of things. The importance of slowing down, recognizing what's happening in the classroom, recognizing what's happening on the field, recognizing that somebody's in need, and then like meeting those needs. You know what I'm saying? You could literally transform and change somebody's life by doing that. You could completely help them move in a different direction just by slowing down for a moment and engaging them and letting them know you care about them, hearing their story, and then helping them calm down and reasoning with them. Do you know what I mean? And so I think I think in our desire to impact lots of people, we miss the impact we can have on one person that can impact tons of people. Do you get what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Amen, Jordan. Yes, you are right on. And I talk about the 3 stages of a regulate, relate, reason. If it is kind of difficult, let me tell you the different way. Very simple. Connect and correct instead of correct and connect. So a lot of times, you talk about coaching, right? Right? So, hey, John, don't do that. You should don't do that. You should do this, right? Always we try to correct first, then we're going to be connected. In other words, I tell you the truth and you correct yourself, then I'm going to love you. But what Jesus did, what Trauma-Informed Care tells us is that instead of try to correct, then connect, the other way around. Connect first and correct. This is very important. You talk about the Gen Z.
Yeah.
I think, you know, we have a humongous generational gap. And the problem is all the time, I'm very my own generation centered. And I look at all others, you know, you don't understand me. And I try to correct them instead of connect them. So I really want to recommend everybody that, hey, you have somebody from other generation. I'm sorry, you guys are all even same family. You are in totally different, the memory, different, you know, kind of a past. It formed a very different personality, to be honest. So why don't we try to connect by love and by understanding, by accepting empathy, instead of try to point, this is why we cannot get along. You know, always kind of certain point. It never ends, right? But the wisdom from science, our faith tradition, even Jesus' life tells us is that, well, the truth is not about correcting somebody or doing the right thing. It's more about how I'm gonna connect. Even it humble myself. Sometimes I don't understand why I do this, but we need to make sure we are safe here together and we are love each other. Then we can really think about difference later.
Yeah, I think that's one of the major things I've noticed as well with Gen Zers, that whole connection thing. And I think a lot of that, when I think about, I've been working with teenagers, and I know you have way longer than I have, but it definitely seems that the kids who are teenagers right now, Gen Zers, they're way different from teenagers even 10 years ago, you know,
Right.
because I think that with social media, with technology, for those of us who were around when technology became so prevalent in our society, for us, it was a novelty. It was a toy. It was something that we enjoy in our downtime. But for Gen Zers, it's their life. And what I mean by that is the digital world or the technological world is where they live. And this world, the flesh and blood world, is where they visit. And so when we talk about connection, I think for them, it's very, very important because they hang on words the way other generations didn't, because they're so used to typing on Twitter and having to be precise about their messages. I've seen kids work on one social media post forever to get the right picture, to say the right caption,
Right.
And it seems like when you think about this, what's the reason for this? It's this desperation for connection. You
Right.
see me. I mean, we don't even call it like acquaintances. We say friends. Like people want friends. People want likes. What does that mean? Like we want this positive feedback,
Mm-hmm.
you
About the
know?
way we're living our lives, about the things that we're doing, and the things
That's
that we're
very,
engaged in.
very, yeah, that's very, very important because, think about all trauma and guilt and shame, anxiety. What is the really kind of one of the main root is that fear, right?
Mm,
It's
That's
good.
the fear that, people need to understand how the fear comes to me. That's different, based on their gender and their generation and everything. With the COVID, I see some old guys like me, right? They post on Facebook, hey, my father is a 9-year old and he went through this and this and this and this and that, he's still fine. Don't be afraid. You guys coward, all kind of things.
he got to live to be 90. It's easy to say when you're 90 years old.
Yeah. So it's like, oh, these young people and these guys, you guys don't have any idea, but just to suck it up, buck it up, grow up, all kind of things. And I don't think it works because they have their own resiliency, but they never had social media, right? If I have a one wrong spelling, my all
Yep.
followers 1,000 people are gonna laugh at me and do all the
Yep.
comment under that.
It's
They
true.
never live like that. So the source of fear is different, right?
Yep.
So you cannot judge other generation easily that, oh man, that's nothing, just to suck it up, buck it up. No, it's not like that because
Mm.
our Gen Zers have a different source of the fear, and
That's
how
good.
we're gonna connect with them and understand them, accept them is very, very important. Also, I tell all the Gen Zers, don't be afraid. Also, don't just think that they are totally different animal, different aliens. No, the other generations, they didn't experience what you experience. So try to speak up. You know,
So
don't
good.
feel like just don't just shut down the door. I think a relationship is a mutual thing. Instead of blaming others, I need to do something to connect. So I really want
Mm.
to encourage the Gen Zers too that hey, just don't be afraid. Cheer up, and then you can be an ambassador to connect the generations by explaining them what you are really going through. Don't be afraid or don't be ashamed when you share that.
Man, that's
It's
That's
so
good.
okay,
good.
you know.
That's good, man.
That's what we're trying to do. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yes.
with a lot of our content, we've been trying to create the voice from the students for
Mm,
older people to hear, like, this is the cry of a generation. Like, this is
mm,
what they're saying. And so, man,
mm.
just hearing you say that, I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah, I tell you, when you try to share, what's gonna happen? I know what's gonna happen. Your dad and mom, brother and sister, older brother and sister, they're gonna, huh, you know. When they do that, you just smile with it. Okay, you don't understand me right now. All right,
Mm,
I'm gonna forgive you. Just extend more generosity to them. Although it's
man,
difficult, instead of, see, I tried, it doesn't work. It's not gonna never work. Don't go there. That's deception. And,
that's
and
so good.
so I hope that Jordan is here, John is here, I'm here. Let me tell you, it was the reverse effect to me when I came to United States. I just tried to be a youth pastor, and then I just started a kind of playing guitar and sing. My English so awkward. So the youth group really laughed at me. Ha ha ha. So I'm very accustomed to be laughed at, actually, to be honest.
Mm,
Because
wow.
of my English is not perfect, and I mean, just kind of there are many reasons people can laugh at me. But the thing is that what I
Mm,
learned is that although I don't have a right posture, right, no right thing around me, in me, if I have a heart, the genuine heart to really love somebody, first of all, I need to get the genuine unconditional love from God first, as I said. But if I keep my genuine heart and never give up the possibility of a connection, and later on it happens.
that's so
That's what
beautiful.
I learned from my life. That because I'm talking with everybody. Jordan, John, you are different ethnic group at different age. Let me tell you, for me to be here, it takes a huge courage. It's not that easy because I always feel like they're gonna laugh at my accent. They're gonna laugh at my, I always feel that way. But
Wow.
because of what happened in my life, I have a small amount of courage that, well, I hang on and we gotta work in the end because
Wow.
I have a genuine heart and commitment to this cause, to this meeting, to these people. Let's keep
Wow,
that.
dude.
We gotta work.
I never
It's good.
I never thought about that. Just the kinds of things people have to overcome to just
Be.
be anything,
Yeah.
because this world will convince you you're just a piece of trash, that you're good for nothing, you know.
It's good. It's
Mm.
true. Sanghoon, thank you.
Yeah, I think you made a mistake. Whenever you start, make me to start talk, I never end. So maybe I got all
No, man, it's been
overtime.
great.
So sorry about
It's been
that.
great. No, it's been great. Thank
That's
you.
my
So
passion.
much
We're-
good stuff,
We're
man.
honored that you would bless us with your wisdom and understanding and the years of experience you have. It's an honor to have you on the show. So
Likewise.
thank you. And as we wrap up, last question for you. Where can people find more info about what you're involved in? Where can we go?
I said once I started the movement, it just grew up exponentially, and I should have 5 more bodies or 5 more, secretaries. I don't have any, so I'm very kind of not well equipped for that kind of media thing. But still, if you can contact me with my email address, the faithfulcity@gmail.com, or you
Cool.
can visit our website, thefaithfulcity.org. Or if you just type my name or the Facebook City or Sanghoon Yoo any social media, you can find a lot of good things. I recommend you to go to my Facebook or LinkedIn and Instagram, and you can find the good kind of resources, the very updated kind of a thing, the resources. And I'm here, man, like a John and Jordan. I know you guys go community all the time, contact with the young people and spending time together. I'm here too, although I'm old, although I don't have a perfect accent. But anyway, I try to. So if anybody who really want to talk with me, I'm here available.
Thank you, Sanghoon. I really appreciate it.
Man, we're honored.
Thank you. So
Thank you so much.
that is episode 31 in the books.
It was a good one.
It was a good one. Find us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube,
Yeah.
RLTKPHX. It's the beginning of the conversation, not the end. We hope this was helpful for you and maybe fed you some things that perhaps you hadn't heard before. Like Sanghoon said, he's available. We're available. Let's continue the conversation. We'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.
Peace.